I was sitting in a small Bavarian village, and like chilling out when all of a sudden the news hit, and basically had to fly back the next day because everything was going to go, batshit crazy, and it did. Right, 2008, I think destroyed the world in ways which you guys will only realize maybe another 4-5 years down the line.
After engineering, why didn't you go for a information technology job? Why did you first decide to get into MBA?
I would actually put it to peer pressure. So I started preparing for CAT because everybody I knew was preparing for CAT. Like all my friends were preparing for CAT. So either you sit outside or you go with them to the various classes. You basically go through that effort. And once you're in it, then you just do it seriously. So put fight, got through, and once you get through, then there's no saying no.
And then you took up finance after engineering. Obviously, that's the story of a lot of IIT engineers as well, a lot of other engineers as well. But what did you know about finance, apart from the fact that you could make a lot of money before getting into it?
The idea of doing pure tech, a tech job was not quite so glamorous. The most glamorous jobs, and I think it continues to be that, are things like investment banking, consulting, treasury, those kind of jobs. So finance was a very sought after job. I passed out in 2000, which is incidentally very similar to how the world is today, right? Back in 2000, we were just at the starting of a bull market where people would take you no matter, we were a batch of about 220, right? And the companies were falling over themselves to take the good people, right? In a lot of cases, we got options and opportunities which we didn't need to be. So very honestly, if you ask me, I wasn't that prepared for finance. I learned everything on the job.
So you are essentially picked on potential entirely?
On attitude. Actually, that's the thing. You need to show the ability and the interest in learning. I think most people, when they're hiring, they want somebody who is looking to learn, somebody who is not set in the ways, who's not saying, I know everything. It's somebody who says, I am willing to get with the program.
So you started at whatever, 13,000 rupees a month, right? Now, from what I hear about everybody who was in finance at that point of time, it occurs to me that salaries kind of doubled almost every year, between a 2003 to 2008 kind of a period, until the global financial crisis. So can you throw some light on life in those years, as in what was it like being in finance and banking at that time, despite the fact that you may not have been a great RM?
No, I was a great RM, but not personal life RM. But yeah, professional life, I was a great RM.
Okay, so what was the work that you did? I think most importantly for a lot of people, what was the work that you did? What skills were needed to be good at the work that you were doing?
Yeah.
And how did it help you professionally, grow? And also, did your wealth grow, accordingly?
Yes, it did. So the most basic skill that you kind of pick up over the course of almost any starting career is the ability to sell, right? Make sure that you pick up something because that is the one skill which you will need throughout. Second is the ability to analyze companies and see patterns. This is also something which I think the MBA really prepares you well for, right? To be able to see patterns, right? It's the reason why, the reason Tendulkar is a great cricketer is because he can tell how the ball is going to fly, land, etc. from looking at the point of release on the bowler's hand, right? And that's really the business equivalent is what you kind of get through an MBA and through the first couple of years of learning. Specifically with respect to finance, balance sheet analysis, the ability to actually understand markets, how things are moving, right? That is a very, very big part.
So when you say that, balance sheet analysis, clearly, you need to be good at accounting courses, etc. But when you say ability to understand or read markets, that seems like a very generic thing. Like, what exactly can somebody who is, say, 22, 23 do to actually get good at it?
Understand economics. Okay, fundamentally understand the concepts in macroeconomics, how inflation, interest rates, your currency values, all of these correlate, etc. Those are things which are critical. So I worked in treasury for a while, right, where I was basically selling derivatives. So that is one part where I really kind of got an idea of how the markets work.
Again, a lot of people here don't know what treasury means,
Okay,
what
so-
derivatives means. Can you simplify it for us?
Typically in a bank, there are people who are selling products like your loans and your cash management and trade finance, etc. And there is one department which manages the inflow and outflow of money, which manages currency exposures, currency risks, interest rate risks for the clients, right? Now this department typically makes about 60 to 70% of the revenue of any bank. It is the most sought after job in a bank because it pays an insane amount. It's actually, I would consider a treasury job to be the one which pays the most. In like people talk about investment banking, consulting, it doesn't even compare to what a treasury job pays you if you do it well. So there's a whole thick book by John C. Hull on like back in the MBA days, it was like the most difficult course kind of stuff. I didn't take it because it was just too difficult, I thought. But yeah, that was so there's a lot of layers in it.
You can make a lot of money in treasury. So how did it work out for you?
I made a lot of money. So that was good. But actually, so I will segue from ABN. So I have not mentioned the next company I worked for, which was Edelweiss, right?
Correct.
And a lot of what prepared me for entrepreneurship, a lot of my courage, the backbone, a lot of that came from Edelweiss. I made money from Edelweiss. Yes, I did, because again, ESOPs and all are very, very valuable. But the bigger point was I learned a lot from an entrepreneurial team. Like, so it was, back then it was like working for a startup, right? Now there are tons and tons of startups which you can choose from, but this is around 2007-8, there weren't quite as many startups to choose from, right? So Edelweiss in the financial sector behaved very much like a startup back then. Now it's like a mammoth giant.
So what were you doing at Edelweiss, which was, say, different from what you did at ABN?
I started off in financing, which was my specialty. Then I moved into...
You mean lending?
Yeah, lending.
Okay.
Yeah. So then moved to set up the risk group. Okay. Managed some of the M&A for a while. So, and then was managing wealth management for a while. So this is what I mean. Like in a startup, it's never one role, right? And when I say Edelweiss was very, very sharp back then in terms of being able to give people the opportunities that they're looking for, right? He said, okay, you want to try this one and get this one done? Here, take it, run with it, succeed.
Obviously, the financial crisis started somewhere around September 2008.
Yeah.
But before we get into what went wrong, what were amongst the most memorable things in those 7-8 years since you started from IIM Calcutta at ABN AMRO at a salary of 13,000 to seeing the peak of the bull run? Are there some anecdotes you'd like to share with us with respect to what you experienced? Some stories and also maybe things that you were really proud of?
So most of my really great memories from most of these center around staircases, right? So we would basically sit on the staircase, whether it was ABN, whether Edelweiss, and smoke and chat and basically shoot the wind, discuss a whole bunch of stuff, right? Learned so much. Like you would get to interact, and I'm not recommending that you smoke, but definitely participate in these staircase conversations, because this is where a lot of the senior people, a lot of the people who are, so they would basically sit and tell you how things were. Like, so there was this senior treasury. So we used to have this funda that, USD Swiss franc, right, which is the Swiss franc, would never go below 1.1. So a lot of the derivatives were linked to, if it doesn't go below 1.1, everybody makes money. But if it goes below 1.1, then 2008 crisis happens, like that kind of stuff, right? So he would sit and he would tell us, you guys haven't seen it. Like we would say, it hasn't happened in 20 years. It's not going to happen. He would say, no, dude, you guys haven't seen anything. It will, when it happens, you will not know. It is not something which you can predict. It happens on a lazy Tuesday afternoon when you're sitting around and wondering what to do next, when all of a sudden everything gets shot, right? And sure enough, that's pretty much how 2008 hit us in any case, right? We couldn't foresee it, though we could sense it that, things were getting like a bit overheated, but the timing just didn't expect it.
What were like the excesses that you could see around you between say 2005-8, which made you feel that possibly something could be off?
So
because I remember you telling me a few days back that you don't think that the current bull run is anywhere even remotely close to what you saw back then.
Oh yes.
So why do you say that?
So okay, let me put it this way. If I am here and I have the time to do this, we are still not in the bull run the way it was. When it at its peak, nobody has time to breathe. People are working from like every single minute is spent working like a maniac, right? The opportunities are just flying by you so fast, right? And you have to just pick everything you touch turns to gold, right? Everything, like, whether you change a job, get a job, do a deal, everything is fantastic, but it is crazy busy. Nobody has time, right? You would not get time from your bosses. You will yourself not have time, right? And that.
But when you say this, like, anything that you touch turns into gold. Like, give us a more concrete example of something like that happened with you.
If your bonus last year in a job was, let's say, 5 lakhs, and your expectation that your bonus this year is going to be at least 30 lakhs. Okay, because last year you did 5 deals and you thought you did a great job. This year you have already done 20 deals and you're still running 10 more, and you're sure that by the time the year closes there would be another 15, right? So those kind of things are basically what you see in a crazy bull market. The way we used to say it is if you're in a train and the guy says, boss, you have to buy stocks. Here's the thing, everybody's buying. Okay, if everybody's on one side of the market, you're kind of getting there. When everybody is screaming at you saying like, you are a fool for not buying the market, it's even more of a bull run.
And despite the massive rally we've seen, you don't think that we are anywhere close to that?
I actually don't think we're anywhere close to it. I think what we will see, and I'm a very, very firm believer in India, right? As a story, right? I keep telling a lot of my friends who are younger, my family who's younger, who are like looking at places like US and Canada and etc. to work. It's like, just when you see the milk, you're like, it's going to just go off, right? We are just there. As a business, what we do, we get to see a lot of hiring activity in different organizations, different industries. The sheer amount of hiring that is coming up, the interest in getting more people, growing staff strength, the demand we are nowhere. I actually feel you might see like, it's not about the markets. It's not about, as they say, Wall Street. It's about the main street. It's about the jobs that are there. It's about the opportunities that people who are going into the market today will have.
The question is then, how did it all go wrong? So what happened when the crisis happened? Where were you when say the Lehman crash happened, or what happened to you personally? Did it change your life in any way, or were you fine?
There are a couple of us who were in the markets who from the beginning of 2008 were very suspicious of the way things were going up, right? A lot of us bet on it. We lost money big time because honestly, markets can stay rational far longer than you can stay solvent, right? So we lost tons of money from the beginning of that initial war, while the bull run went from bull to naked and crazy version, right? And at a point of time, we just gave up and said like, we don't know when this is going to end, right? So I was actually on vacation. I was sitting in a small Bavarian village, and like chilling out when all of a sudden the news hit, and basically had to fly back the next day because everything was going to go, batshit crazy, and it did, right? 2008, I think destroyed the world in ways which you guys will only realize maybe another 4-5 years down the line. When you hit the top of the bull run, and from there, if you see that fall, you say, oh man, there's so much which was lost. There's so much which was lost back then, right? We have recovered a lot of it over the last 13-14 years. But yeah, it took a long time for that to happen.
So career-wise, how did it affect people? How did it affect you?
So I think career-wise, it spawned that the the startup generation, really, right? I think what happened is a whole bunch of people who are used to getting progressively, more and more money every year, and were used to working like crazy hard, were saying, okay, I will have to work as hard, but I won't make quite as much money, right? And I will not see quite as much success. So why don't I work hard at building something of my own, where at least the potential to make money is much higher? And I think that was the thought which spawned a huge number of, from like about 2010, which is when people kind of woke up to that reality, all the way up till now. The startups which started flourishing pretty much across the world and in India as well, right? And I think that was the main economic shift.
So you're saying startups have come up because of the global financial crisis in a way?
Of course, because otherwise, it's the opportunity cost, like, so from that third, I was making like close to back then about 75 lakhs.
Right.
Giving that up would have been super scary, except I could clearly see that 75 lakhs was not going to grow from there, possibly come down.